Hello, this is my 1969 Honda CL450, and in this video I want to take a look at the clutch and possibly rebuild it. The previous owner told me I'd want to do that, so I thought I'll take a look at it. So the first step in that is I need to drain the oil, and unfortunately right now I'm in the middle of replacing my rear tire and my rear sprocket, so I've got the rear wheel off. So I need to find some way to hold this up while I move the lift out so I can drain the oil out of the engine. Luckily, my neighbor just got rid of these big benches, and I think I should be able to lay one on its side and lower the bike onto it just for a minute to drain the oil. Okay, it's holding. Got the lift out of there, so now I'm gonna poke through some recycling bins and see if I can find something to make into a drain pan. Alright, I think I found something even better. This huge bucket fits under there now, so it's got some old like paint and like mineral spirits stuff in there, but I think it's fine. So I'm still gonna lay out this trash bag underneath and then take out that drain plug. Maybe I'll let this drip for 10-15 minutes and then come back out. I really don't want to get any of it onto the concrete out here. Alright, so oil's drained out and I've let some PB Blaster soak on all these bolts on the engine casing. And so now I'm going to take it apart, and first thing I'm going to do is gotta get all these pieces out of the way. So first I guess I'll take the starter kickstart lever off. So just as an aside, I took apart the Kickstarter lever and it's just full of this like brown sludge. I'm pretty sure this has to get greased because it's got this, which looks like a grease reservoir, and obviously it rotates a lot. So anyway, I am gonna clean up and re-grease this before I put it back on. Alright, so the primary reason I've opened this up is to take a look at the clutch plates and figure out what needs replacing. So to do that, I use 4 10mm bolts. Alright, let's see if we can take this cover plate off. There you are. And the clutch It should just come out. Oh. So I'm gonna take the oil filter off. Just means getting this snap ring off. There you are. So I'm literally just taking one of the bolts that held the clutch together and threading it into the oil filter so that I can. There you are. Wow. There's a ton of shiny metal files in there. Well, not a ton, but they've all kind of grouped up in one little spot. Alright, so I just scoured the internet trying to figure out how to get this piece off because I thought it was blocking me from taking the clutch apart, but turns out you can just kind of wiggle the clutch out of there, so, or the clutch plates. So, I'm going to take apart all of these now. Yeah, the bottom one has sort of a curve to it. So there you go, I got the oil filter open so I can clean that, and the clutch apart so I can see what plates need replacing, if any. Alright, so it really, honestly it looks like anti-seize compound. It's just like this silver sludge. It's really caked in there. It's very good to be cleaning. I'm not sure when the last time this was cleaned was. Here you can see that stuff. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna try to work at this for a while, get all the sludge out of there. Alright, so I took a look at the clutch plates, and except for two of the steel plates, they look pretty good. So I'm thinking I should also clean out the clutch cable mechanism on the chain cover, because maybe that's what the previous owner was feeling when he told me to replace the clutch plates. So I took the chain cover off. I'm also planning on replacing the sprockets and chain because they're rusted and worn down. So I had to take this off. Alright, so I have the chain cover here now, and this is where the clutch cable connects. And actually, you can see that this piece is actually broken where the cable goes in, but it still functions. I don't think I'll replace it. So anyway, the clutch cable comes here, and basically the way this works is that as the clutch cable pulls up, this rotates out, which allows the clutch plates on the other side of the engine to disengage. So, sorry, now you're looking at it from the back of the bike, from the front of the bike, so the clutch is over here where my hand is. And when this pushes, it disengages the clutch. So, take this all the way out. There's this little spring and these huge threads. Now on the other side, this is the clutch adjustment. And this comes apart with a 10mm bolt here with a washer. And that holds this on. And when that's gone, so there's the clutch adjustment, and once you take that locking nut or locking bolt out, you can take the full piece which holds the threaded piece where the clutch cable connects. You can take that whole piece out and give it a good clean. So I'm going to clean all this. I'll even clean off the chain cover a little bit, even though it's just going to get dirty again. And then I'll re-grease this, because there really wasn't much grease on it, and reassemble it. Okay, this little ball bearing sits in the bottom there. You don't want to lose that. It just fell out when I took it all apart. This sort of barrel just lines up with that notch there. And obviously you adjust this actually once the clutch is all put together again. But that just gives you a good starting position so that you can get this in there. And so this then, the barrel's in there. This just gets an absolute ton of grease because the clutch goes in and out a fair amount. So these are huge threads, so they can hold a ton of grease in there. All right. And then this goes in like that, so that it's obviously inside the case, not on the other side. Now let me just wipe out all this excess grease. Like I said, this ball bearing has to go back in there. I guess I'll leave it to the side for now until I'm installing the chain cover though. And finally, there's just this little spring. Really looks like nothing, but alright, so there it is. There's the clutch mechanism back together, and that ball bearing, like I said, goes in there once I'm ready to put it on the bike. Alright, so now once I have the clutch rebuilt, I can put the chain cover back on and know that the mechanism looks good on the inside, and then all I have left to do is adjust the mechanism once it's all together. Alright, so while I got the right engine cover off, I'm going to clean it up, but I also want to get these 3 screws out. If you take off this cover,
You don't have to replace the gasket, I don't think, because it's aluminum, and you can clean out the oil filter that way without having to take off the full cover. So I like to get those screws out because they're stripped and rusted, and replace them. I got Allen bolts from Common Motor for the whole engine. So, not sure. I preemptively bought some of these. I'm going to try to take them out now. So. Alright, so it is pretty gross behind this cover. I have no idea when those old screws stripped, but it's clearly been a very long time since anyone's taken them out. I got them out in the end though, and like I said, I have replacements. Before that, I am gonna go through and clean the cover and clean all this. You know, I would have thought there'd be some gasket here. I actually thought there was an aluminum one, but apparently not. I think it's just these O-rings, which I have replacements for, that seal the engine up. So, like I said, I'm going to go through and clean this all with steel wool or steel brushes or something. I just got some soapy water here I'm going to use. I don't have any engine degreaser, but I think that might help cut some of this stuff. Alright, so pretty happy with how everything cleaned up. It's not spotless, but all like the debris and stuff is out of there, which isn't the important part. So I'm going to slip this new O-ring on here. Goes into a little groove, and then this cover, you just want to make sure the galleys for the oil are all lined up on the cover. Basically, as the oil filter spins in here with the rotation of the engine, the debris goes to the outside and clean oil goes through the middle, goes through here and comes out in these two galleys, which you want to line up with the two holes in the inside of the cover. Oh, but first there's another O-ring that sits right in here, and then this cover can go on. And like I said, I have these new bolts from Common Motor. They're Allen key bolts. And I'm just going to put a little anti-seize on them. Alright, so while I have the clutch apart, I know I want to replace 2 steel plates of the clutch, but I'm going to keep all the friction discs, so I'll put the friction discs aside, and I want to clean these up before I put them back in, because they've just, gotten some dirt and stuff on them, which is not surprising. So, basically, I'm going to take some wet and dry 1500 grit sandpaper, and just on my flat workbench, just gonna try to work all that. Alright, and then just before I put them in, I'm just gonna wipe all the friction pads down. Again, like I said, they are small, but they're not smaller than spec. So I'm going to keep them for now because a replacement friction pads are pretty expensive. Just wiping this off because this is old, dirty oil. Alright, so I'm going to get a little tray of oil here because I'm going to need it to put together the clutch and to put back on the oil filter. So just a little bit there. Now I can take this part of the oil filter. Let me put some gloves on. I'll get some oil on there so I can get the O-ring on. There's a new O-ring. And then, alright, so I got the piece of the oil filter oiled up, and with the new O-ring, just slide that in there. Alright, so now I'm going to put the clutch plates back in. Now, the order is alternating steel and friction plate, and the first plate is this curved steel plate with the curved side facing into the engine. So that goes on first, and then this clutch plate we've been soaking. Now, I want to show you these clutch plates. You can see they have this notch, then 2 flats, then a notch, then 2 flats. I looked back at the footage earlier in the video, and I'm pretty sure that the notches are like they're not all in a row. They're sort of offset from one another. So what I mean by that is there's a notch here, and then I'll put the next notch, let's say I'll put it up. There you are. I have 2 new steel plates, right? These are shiny, and they weirdly don't have the little dots that the other steel plates have. You can't even see them, but there are these little dots, I'm assuming to add friction. The new plates don't have them, but they are like OEM Honda plates, so I don't know. I'm going with it. And then I'll put the notch now, right, the next one up, which also puts it down here below the first. And then another steel. There you are. Alright, now I have the clutch sort of cap. Now this drops on here, and you want to make sure it's setting in there. So there is a way. Yeah, see how I'm pressing as hard as I can and it's not sort of getting in that groove? This cap is also sort of a steel plate, so you want to make sure that it's coming in full contact with the friction plate at the end here. Now I'm going to throw on all my springs. Just going to finger tighten my 10mm bolts. And you kind of have to tighten these down gradually and like work in a circle so that you're not pulling the cap down more on one side than on another.
Alright, so I got all the gasket material off. I mean, it still looks like there's some spots here, but that's just like, they're not actually raised gasket material, so I don't think they'll get in the way of the seal at all. So now I'm gonna move on to putting on the gasket and then the cover. Alright, apologize because it's getting a little darker, but I just wanted to show you, these are the 2 longer bolts. This one, and then 3 shorts, and then the long. The rest are all the same, they're all the shorter length, and before I put all these bolts in, I'm going to cover them in anti-seize. Alright, so like I said, the previous owner complained about the clutch and said I should rebuild it. Like you saw, I opened up the clutch and there were only 2 steel discs that actually needed replacing, so I thought the problem was going to be in something else. So I took a look at the clutch mechanism, which is now in this bag for the moment because it was raining. And then finally, I took a look at the clutch rod, which goes in here. Now, let me show you what that clutch rod looked like. So it was more like clutch rods. This is the end that gets pushed by the cable, and this end pushes the clutch out. So, $50 later, I got a used clutch rod. This is called like a clutch lifter rod. I forget the part number, but... So, the old clutch rod was in 2 pieces. I think I'll spare you the footage, but I did take off the clutch cover. I had to take the clutch rod out from the other end, and this end out from the other end. Anyway, got it out. I put back on the cover because I think I can just throw this in from the side that's open, and hopefully this will fix the problem. As you can see, so here's the used rod, the broken one. Here's the new one. You can see this one's rounded, this one's kind of been like sheared, I don't know, cut somehow. Here's the cut point. Alright, you can see, you might not even necessarily know if you know, but that's cut. And then here's the part on the broken one where the mechanism pushes, and here's the part on the new one, pretty similar. So the clutch rod goes in there. Already that's sticking out way more than it was before, so that's good. So what you want to do is, you have your clutch cable tightened all the way in to this little sort of piece that goes on the cover, right? And you want to hook this up to the actuator like that. Like that. And now that it's hooked up, you want to kind of, I go first shifter shaft, and then I kind of wiggle the whole thing together, and then I'm going to try to slip in the ball bearing. You want to make sure you have that ball bearing in here. I will say I lost the ball bearing that's supposed to be in there, so I'm using a ball bearing from the steering stem, which is a little bigger, but I don't think it's going to be an issue, and if it is, I can buy a different ball bearing. But figure, you might have lost your ball bearing too, so this one that's a little bigger, we'll test it out since I have it. So, like I said, I'm gonna bring this cover down.
Oh, actually, I want to say this too, that your mechanism here should be as far in as possible, which means you loosen this 10mm bolt and you turn it counterclockwise as far as it will go and brings it all the way in. So then you tighten your 10mm nut. Alright, so you want to get the chain cover sort of starting on that shifter shaft. And now, right now it's a lot easier because I don't have the exhaust mounted on. But regardless, you're going to want to get your ball bearing and kind of try to slip it into that mechanism as you're... And you want to listen very carefully for it falling out, because it does kind of like to fall out. So, okay, so I slipped it in there. Now I'm just gonna keep an eye on it and bring this together. Now, I didn't hear or see it fall out, so that's a good sign. I'm gonna get my two long bolts, and they go here. It's also important to mention you want to make sure you're not, these wires right here, you don't want to clamp those anywhere where they're going to get damaged. So I think they're fine just sort of sitting right there. Yeah, so the clutch lever just isn't doing anything, and that's because we have to set this actuator. So you loosen the 10mm nut, and you want to tighten it clockwise as far as it will go. Mine will go to there. And you back it off just a hair. You tighten your 10mm nut. Then you want to feel, the clutch there. So there's really not much resistance, so what you can do is take that same 10mm wrench. Yeah, that feels decent. So now, to adjust the feel in the cable, you can loosen this cable housing here. And obviously you want to tighten down these lock nuts after you get it to the appropriate. And this whole adjustment is just to get the free play that you like in the cable. So it's kind of just something I think I'll adjust as I go. Alright, now we got the mechanism together. The clutch should be working, so thanks for watching.